Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are in the final moments before the arrival of Money in the Bank. That goes live tomorrow and features plenty of pretty high octane stuff. There's 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches first and foremost, plus an Intercontinental Championship match, a World Heavyweight Championship match, and a 6-man tag match involving the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Thank you very much, Chrissa, for following over on the Twitch side. You'll get a notification every time we go live. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll also be going through a few pieces of additional news. To just go through the headlines, we'll be talking about the matches that didn't make the cut and what pushed them out. Trish Stratus making an appearance, the likelihood of Roman Reigns arriving, the likelihood of Randy Orton turning heel, the Wyatt Six potential involvement, Ricochet status, Bayley versus Nia Jax, an update on the recovery of Charlotte Flair, and a little bit on what's happening right now with Jade Cargill. So I've got plenty to share. But I do want to give a warning pretty much straight away, because there are going to be spoilers in this stream. Yes, I know it's called Spoiler Warning, but please be aware what's going to happen is that I'm going to go through Money in the Bank, give my personal predictions, and then I'm going to give you a spoiler prediction. And that spoiler prediction is based on a number of things. Firstly, information from backstage in WWE. Secondly, current betting odds and storylines. And thirdly, my initial prediction laid on top of it. So I will at times have different predictions to the spoiler-filled predictions. But I do just want to be clear that there may be, during this show, a bit more information than you can necessarily bargain with. That said, you don't often come to a show called Spoiler Warning without expecting a few spoilers. So, welcome everyone. There's already 57 people here, 23 likes. Keep those likes going. 2 more gets us to 25. I'll catch up with the chat, make sure we're all caught up, and then I'll dive in and do our entirety of our predictions and get your predictions as well. Spider Boss is asking about Liv Morgan's title reign. We'll find out at the pay-per-view. Sean says, my picks for Money in the Bank are Jay and EO. EO again. Welcome, Sean. Welcome, Michael. Nice to see you, mate. Sorry, I got distracted by reading 2 names at once. Eric says, I'm calling it now, Tiffany and Drew in the bank. Spider-Boss says the Liv and Dom storyline needs Rhea back soon. Liv gets repetitive sometimes on TV. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Leon. Recently, I've been spending a lot of time peeling wallpaper off ceilings. My niece recently turned up and said, that looks like a real fun job. And I told her, there are no fun jobs. There are just jobs that need doing. So far, I have a somewhat functional office, a good living room, good bathroom, good kitchen, and a spare bedroom, which has a lot of holes going straight out the house. So, you know, we do what we do. Kieran says, how do, Tom? How do, sir? King Arthur says, Tom, are they going to tease Roman's return tomorrow? More on that shortly. Keenan says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Keenan. Marcel says, hi, Tom. I'll listen to you and watch the Euros. Have a good stream. Thank you. Appreciate that. After all, you can watch football and just have me in your ear. Who doesn't want me in their ear? Come on, let's be honest. Danny says, hello there, Tom. Great show with Martin the other day. Trish going to be at Money in the Bank. Indeed she is, and thank you for the compliment. Oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. John said, did you watch the WrestleMania documentary, Tom? In it, Triple H pretty much confirmed what he said months ago, that Seth versus Punk was a plan for Mania. I don't believe he said it was going to night 1 main event, though. No, he didn't do that, but I did report that that was going to happen at Survivor Series War Games 2023. So this is confirmation of something I reported 9 months ago. It's nice, isn't it? Always nice. Spider-Bot says, do you know if WWE higher-ups are happy with the Liv and Dom storyline? They are thrilled with the Liv and Dom storyline. Wants to say, Tom, according to good old SRS, the enemy, he has Ricochet signing with AEW. More on that shortly. Bailey says, congratulations to Labour supporters from last night. It was a good win for Labour after all, though I do think a lot of that was a collapse of the Tories rather than the victory for Labour. Martin says, good evening, Tom and all. Massive thanks for the other night again. You're very welcome, sir. I always enjoy talking wrestling, and you do make it nice and easy for me. Eric says, good evening, Tom Colohue, the penultimate spoiler warning. My predictions for Money in the Bank, men's and women's, Tiffany Stratton and Drew McIntyre, but vice versa. Raymond says, would love to see Chelsea win Money in the Bank. Her character with the briefcase could be brilliant. I do agree. And Noob says, hello, Mr. Tom Colohue. How you doing? Doing very well, thank you. Marcel says, watch the pig, which has become very much meme culture. Drive-by says, smash the likes, guys. Thank you, Drive-by. 82 people watching, 34 likes. Be the one and get me to 35. Cal says, hey, Tom, what a 24 hours it's been. If you know, you know. From Pillar to Post, also congratulating the new Prime Minister. DM says, hi, Tom. Welcome, DM. And I am nobody just says, good game. Good game. Dax says, hey, Tom, how are you? Doing very well, thank you, Dax. Welcome back to the show. Good to see you, mate. Kieran says, really want the Wyatts to completely disrupt the men's Money in the Bank. All the combatants have to help each other. That would be a battle and a half and a certain turn-up for the Bucks, considering there aren't really that many feuds involved in it. Danny says, Tiffany and Jay for Money in the Bank cases. Daniel says, hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you and a good weekend, hopefully, to all involved. Kieran says, also want to say your content is amazing, mate. Thank you kindly. Once we are in the new house, there will be content coming back. PLE Wednesdays will be returning, as will WTF Wrestling, which is our Sunday show. Basically, I'll have more time, I'll have an office, and I'll be able to get stuff done. Cal says, I do feel we're going to see Howdy tomorrow, but I don't just think it will be just to attack on Gable. I can say Jay falling victim to the Wyatt 6. More on that later. Drive-by says, my picks are Jay and Naomi. Spider-Boss says, Alba and Isla Dawn won the women's tag team title and haven't appeared so much on TV because they were primarily used to get them off Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. More on that later. Marcel suggests Yeet in the Bank and Barbie in the Bank for me. You think Barbie Blank is coming back? If you remember the name. Juan says, watch the pig. Raymond says, watch the pig. Eric says, watch the pig, feed the pig. Brad says, fear the hair, but watch the pig. Definitely meme culture. Leon says, Drew and Chelsea are my picks. Ishii says, I really want the Wyatt 6 to steal the briefcase. They wouldn't have won it, so they can't do much with it. Sai says, evening all. I've had 1 hour sleep in the last day and barely know what time it is, but I'm up for Money in the Bank tomorrow. It looks like a hell of a card. It should be very, very exciting indeed. Mostly it will be about nearly 2 hours of Money in the Bank ladder matches. I do think this one will go slightly over the typical 3 hours. But welcome, Sai. You've really burned the midnight oil at the moment. Pillar to Post says, fear the pig. DM says, Priest versus Rollins is set to main event, Money in the Bank. You want to source that, mate, because it comes from Wrestling Observer, just to be clear. It's pretty much confirmed Drew is winning and attempting to cash in. He absolutely does not. Sean says, this is from Corey Brennan. Thank you for sourcing. Sources in both NXT and Marigold claim to Fightful select that Julie will not be at NXT Heatwave and is scheduled for Marigold dates over the weekend. He's literally the guy who reported that she would be. So this is another one of those examples of someone reporting that something would happen and then immediately, well, not immediately, you get what I mean, and then reporting afterwards that they won't. It's just Wrestling Observer. Also, sources within Marigold? Sources within Marigold. Ain't many of them. Martin says, much appreciated. That's actually to someone else. Just I want to be clear on that one. By saying sources within Marigold, you're really narrowing down a very small amount of people that your information could come from, and in many ways exposing sources there. Raymond says, I'd love to see Chad Gable win Money in the Bank only for the Y6 to cost him on the cash-in. Robin Dave says, hey Tom, how did you like the Bloodline segment last week with Paul Heyman? It was awesome. Bloodline, they know what they're doing. Danny says, I'm multitasking here watching you in the Money in the Bank kickoff show. Spider-Boss says it's a spoiler, but CM Punk will screw Drew once again. Not necessarily a spoiler. Cal says, also Tom, I feel we need to fear the puppets. Feel we could, the puppets behind different wrestlers, and that could indicate who the targets of the Wyatt 6 are. Yeah. Indeed. Dan says, evening. Dan, of course, representing Eve, Right Girls of Wrestling. If you want to watch high-quality wrestling, that's the place to go, and it's right here on YouTube. Eric says, does Tiffany get a special briefcase that you know of? She'd need to win it first. First and foremost. Get to Table says, what do you think is more likely to happen? Punk costing Drew Money in the Bank or costing him a cash-in? Personally, I think it's most likely he would cost him Money in the Bank. Now, Drew McIntyre is one of the betting favourites, and certainly costing him a cash-in would work, but it really does depend. I could see the cash-in failing this time around for both sides. Primarily because, well, Gunter's right there. DM says, is there a chance Punk won't be cleared by SummerSlam? There's always a chance. Cal says, I'm so glad Punk is being allowed to wait out because he's quite injury prone. He would have got injured if he came back too early. Well, if you come back too early, chances are you're going to get injured. That is what happened, as we know, to Liv Morgan. Juan says, hey, Tommy, excited for the big money match according to Tommy Dreamer. Britt Baker versus Mercedes Money. Yeah. That's the previous generation of AEW Women's Division leader versus the current generation of AEW Women's Division leader. That is a pretty big match. Sean says, do you see a title change on SmackDown tonight? No, not yet. Spider-Boss says, Corey Brennan from Fightful was the guy who said Mercedes Money was going to cheat to win the AEW TBS Women's title, and Mercedes just took advantage of Willow being distracted. I previously reported many things. Firstly, that Mercedes Money was going to be signing with AEW. Secondly, that Mercedes Money was going to be going after the TBS Championship. Thirdly, that Mercedes Money was going to be turning heel relatively early in her run. I have a very good record when it comes to Mercedes Money, is the point I'm trying to make. Neither pillar. There's a real big Asda nearby. Kelvin says, this week one of the best episodes of AEW Dynamite ever. That was fun. The actual shows, it seems when people are watching them, are producing very high quality. Very high quality that people are genuinely enjoying. The hate for AEW seems to be almost entirely coming from people who don't watch it. Danny says, CM Punk will screw Drew 100%. As we know, Drew McIntyre is a very screwable man. Just throwing that out there. DM says, MJF versus Ospreay an option for All In? I don't have much information on the card at this point in time. Ospreay is said to have been expected to challenge for the championship at Wembley, but if MJF's right there, I do feel that might be a little bit better. Eric says, do you think Punk Drew needs a title? No. In no way. Carl says, CM Punk has been an absolute house since returning, and I am absolutely loving it. All accidental, but it really genuinely works with his overall character at the moment. Kieran, you're not wrong as regards Trish Stratus. Dax says, hey, I had to go, so sorry if this has already been answered. Will the Wise beat Money in the Bank? Haven't got to that yet. That is a piece of information for later, after I've done all the predictions. Spider-Boss says it was good to see MJF turning heel again. MJF's babyface run went downhill with the Devil storyline. Yeah, it didn't quite work, and he didn't like it either. Marcel says, let's go and break the like record. 44 likes right now, 91 people watching. If 20 people of those who haven't already hit like now, we would then have more than 100 viewers here, which you guys know I always like. But we're all caught up now, so let's get to some predictions and some spoilers. As I've mentioned, I'm going to start by sharing my personal prediction and follow it up with a spoiler risk prediction. That means I've been talking to people backstage about what might happen, I've been following the betting odds for what might happen, adding then my personal prediction to it, and come out with what seems likely. It is high risk of spoilers, so be aware of that. What I will say as well is please let me know what your predictions are as I go through each individual match. If you do, for example, post all of your predictions at once, it means I get 1 extra chat, which increases my chat rate by 1. If we do it for each 5 matches, we get 5 pieces of chat, which increases my chat rate by 5. That simple. Little things that go a long way. I can see quite a few people dropped out when it comes to the spoilers. I appreciate that. Let's get to what's going to be happening. So starting with my personal prediction, I believe Cody Rhodes opens Money in the Bank for his tag team match alongside Randy Orton and Kevin Owens against the Bloodline. I expect that the Bloodline will be represented by Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu. I believe Tonga Loa will be sitting this one out, and Jacob Fatu will get a chance to really shine. My personal prediction, Solo Sikoa pins Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, unfortunately, since going to SmackDown, has not had much of the rub of the green. In fact, hasn't had much of an opportunity to do anything, really. He's been, again, defined almost entirely by the Bloodline. He's been getting his ass handed to him at pretty much every opportunity. That doesn't seem likely to change. He's been elevating Solo Sikoa, and I expect that to continue at this point in time. Solo Sikoa, with the deadly thumb, pinned Kevin Owens, meaning that as we build towards Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes, as first reported here at SummerSlam, it will be with a loss for Cody. This might, of course, affect Randy Orton's position, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. What is your prediction for Solo Sikoa and 2 other members of his bloodline, potentially no Solo Sikoa at all, versus Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens? Who have we got for that one? Pillar to post, not something we're going to be discussing, not something we're ever likely to discuss, and not something I would ever speculate on. Spider-Boss says it's sad that Adam Cole can't stay free from injuries. It is a shame, unfortunately. It really is. Eric says, when do you think you'll be back to doing SmackDown watch-alongs? I don't pretend that I will. It'll be a full-time thing, which I ain't. And seems unlikely to. DM says, if WWE went with The Rock versus Roman and Seth versus Cody for WrestleMania 40 and Punk didn't get injured, could there be a chance Punk versus McIntyre would have happened at WrestleMania? No, because Cody would not have faced Seth at WrestleMania 40 if Punk hadn't been injured. Chris says, ESPN announced Bayley as the #1 female wrestler in their section, in their breakdown. Yes, they did. Kevin says, if AEW continues to deliver shows like last week, little by little, fans go back. We'll see. Okay, Sean has brought in more information from Corey Brennan. This is also from Corey Brennan. NXT sources tell Fightful Select they expect Julia to be on the card for the next NXT Premium Live event, with WWE wanting her on screen as soon as possible. If this is true, do you think it's possible she'll be champion on the premiere episode of NXT on the CW? You're asking me to make a guess based on speculation. Leon says Bloodline wins and Solo pins Cody. Sean says, I'd like to see one of the Money in the Bank matches main event the show. According to Wrestling Observer, that is not currently the plan. Robin Dave says, I got the Bloodline with Cody getting pinned by Solo. Cody getting pinned. Wow. Jason says, Bloodline wins, Solo pins Cody. I mean, The Rock did pin Cody as well. So it can happen. Pillar to Post says, Bloodline needs the win. Spider-Boss says, my Money in the Bank picks. And then proceeds to give me all of his picks. Jack says, Bloodline. Brad says Jacob Fatu pins Randy Orton. Kervin says, let's be honest, Kevin Owens have done everything WWE this difficult to find something for him. Overpush new Not sure what you're going for there, mate. Eric says bootleg Bloodline wins. We have a troll. I believe, looking at this, it's already been taken care of, so I'll move on from that. Carl says Bloodline wins. I mean, they kind of have to because it would completely ruin their momentum, in my opinion. Certainly, I think they keep them strong for SummerSlam. Aaron says, unfortunately, I missed the first part. I'll rewatch later. Fair enough. Welcome, Aaron. And King Azza says Solo pins Cody. Danny just says thank you, Trish. Not sure why, but he does. Spider-Boss says Liv is more active on social media with her beef with Zelina Vega than what she does on TV every week. Yes, because one of them is booked and one of them is not. Rob and Dave, I should say, we will be discussing Roman Reigns a little later. Still discussing this one. Michael says Corey Brennan also said Tegan Nox would be appearing on NXT, still waiting on that. Yeah. He's in every way their NXT guy. Apparently has distinct sources in NXT that Sean Ross Sapp does not. And yeah, a lot of news comes out. A lot of news. Marcel says Bloodline wins. Noob has Cody getting pinned by Solo Sikoa. Sean says, I believe in the documentary Triple H said he told Cody day of the Rumble he wasn't going to be facing Roman and had no plans for Cody after his Rumble win, and said Cody went into business for himself. Yeah, he does that. He's pretty well known for it. Sid says NXT Charlie Dempsey showed up at last night's TNA and attacked the Rascals and Leon Slater. Charlie Dempsey is being built almost entirely outside of NXT. It's an interesting tactic. Backwards says, I think it will be Jacob Fatu pinning Randy Orton. Muppet says, hi, I'm late. Hope you're all doing well. Doing very well. Welcome to the show. And Spider-Boss says, do you see Roxanne winning at NXT Heatwave? Yep. Can't imagine a world in which she doesn't. Red says, I think Bloodline and Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton interference. I think they interfere on themselves. No, Eric, not yet. So, the more spoiled prediction, based on, as I say, talking to people backstage, betting averages, also has the Bloodline picking up the win. That is also the reason that that is also the Bloodline picking up the win based on betting averages, speaking to people backstage, and the like. Next up, women's Money in the Bank. My personal prediction is Chelsea Green. I know there's a lot of love right now for Tiffany Stratton, but I think she needs a little more build before we can get to there. I also have a bit of an outside-the-box prediction. I think Chelsea Green will be the first women's Money in the Bank winner to fail her cash-in. I very much think Chelsea Green would be perfect with a briefcase. She already has people backing her up. She'd be the perfect troll. And I think whatever she ends up doing fails. So my personal prediction for the women's Money in the Bank is Chelsea Green. Who do people have for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match? Spider-Boss says, I think Solo Sikoa pins Cody. Bloodline has been Cody's kryptonite. True, particularly Solo Sikoa. Backwards says, you see Jacob Fatu having a one-on-one match at SummerSlam with Randy Orton or Kevin Owens? Personally, no. I think the entire Bloodline story will be in the main event. King Arthur has Chelsea Green. Marcel says Tiffany in the Bank. Bailey has Chelsea Green. Leon says Chelsea Green. Money in the Bank fits her character so well. Sean has EO winning. Rob and Dave have Tiffany in the Bank. Sid says, I'm more looking forward to TNA. Okay, well done. Cal says R-Truth for some reason. Jack says Tiffany. Danny says no chance Tiffany wins because we know it's Tiffy time. Don't think you said what you thought you said there, mate. Eric says Tiffany Stratton. Carl says Chelsea Green, in all seriousness. Spider-Verse says Chelsea Green being Miss Money in the Bank makes sense. If she fails her cash in, it would be fun to see her reaction. Backwards says I also think Chelsea Green, it really fits her character. Pillar the Post says Money in the Bank should be for making new stars, and a Tiffany win would do that. Green is a comedy act who doesn't need it. Arguably no one needs it. Need is a difficult thing in wrestling. Hector says, besides Uncle Howdy, who would you like to see their first in-ring match from the Wyatt Six? I personally hope it's Dexter Loomis, considering we've not seen him in so long. Rambling Rabbit is more likely, I think. Brad has Tiffany. Noob says, I like Chelsea Green, but I'm still going with Tiffany Stratton winning. Roger also has Tiffany Stratton winning. Jason says, I think Lyra wins. Need to push someone on Raw with Becky and Rhea missing. Certainly would be a big help on Monday Night Raw, but let's not forget that Rhea Ripley is due to return relatively soon, and Becky Lynch will be returning. Red says, Chelsea Green wins. Briefcase cash-in is the same night, but loses everything. Who's she cashing in on? There is no Women's Championship match. Cal says, I do absolutely believe we could see Truth in both matches, though, before being told he's not in the match. I mean, eventually that stick's going to get boring. Kervin says, I want Naomi to win Money in the Bank, and at SummerSlam, Naomi turns heel on Bayley. So what, during the Nia Jax match? And Danny says, possibly Lyra is a good shout. Now going into the more spoiler prediction, based on betting odds, based on backstage news, Tiffany Stratton is indeed the favourite when it comes to WWE and the betting odds. Tiffany Stratton seems like she may well be getting herself a bright pink briefcase. Literally, Barbie pink briefcase. Completely unignorable. It's gonna be an experience. It's gonna be difficult to watch at times. But hey, sometimes things just work. Next up, I have the Intercontinental Championship match. This would be Sami Zayn defending against Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker exploded onto the scene, has been huge and vitally important to everything going on in WWE since the Royal Rumble, has been demolishing everyone he comes up against. It is very much that Goldberg in WCW after his debut feeling and that vibe, which in many ways we kind of all expected here. My prediction is that Bron Breakker dethrones Sami Zayn, allowing Sami Zayn to take a little bit of time away and then return ready for a brand new storyline. Sami Zayn was not the original choice to face off against Gunther at WrestleMania. That, as we know, was Brock Lesnar. He also wasn't expected to win that match, so I do think he was unfortunately on borrowed time the entire time. I'm not sure what happens next. Potentially he goes over and helps out the Bloodline, or helps out Cody Rhodes against the Bloodline. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but I will say I think the Intercontinental Championship moves from Sami Zayn to Bron Breakker, and I don't think the match lasts very long. I really don't. So who do you have winning the match for the Intercontinental Championship between Sami Zayn and Bron Breakker? Backwards says a bright pink briefcase is really sick, honestly. King Azza says Sami wins by DQ. Interesting. How does that play out? Tell me more. Jason says Bron Breakker wins, possibly squashes him. That's what I see. Danny says Bron Breakker becomes a new Intercontinental Champion. Robin Dave said Bron Breakker wins. Spider-Boss says I think Bron Breakker demolishes Sami Zayn and wins the Intercontinental title. Jack says Sami retains over a roll-up, which certainly seems possible. It will sort of do some damage to Bron Breakker, but not so much that he wouldn't survive it. Just as a heads up, we have 90 people watching, 57 likes. 3 more gets us to 60 if we can. Sean says if you checked out Mercedes' interview on Hot 97, she said WWE tried so hard to not make her do The Mandalorian and said they put her on house shows when she was supposed to be filming. There is a debate as to whether that was negligence or evil, vile stuff. Malicious. Negligence or maliciousness is a constant debate. Is someone an idiot or are they a dickhead? Noob says a bright pink briefcase will burn my eyes. Yeah. Brad says Bron Breakker is going to sadly destroy Sami. I can see the tears streaming down his face. Red says Sami Zayn. Sean says would Gunter have beaten Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? Yes, he would. Leon says Sami wins by roll-up. Yes, Zayn, I did know that, though I don't necessarily know if it's relevant at this point, but I will say they're both doing well on their brand. Sean says I have Bron Breakker. Bailey says Bron in under 4 minutes. Some of these would have to be brief. I've got to say, the briefcase matches, the Money in the Bank ladder matches, likely to take a long time. Cheers, Danny. Nice to see you. We'll catch you soon. Cal says Bron Breakker wins. In my opinion, like you said, Tom, it helps Sami rest. He's been an important character for around 2 years now. Marcel says Bron will win in 30 seconds. Aaron has Bron Breakker as well. Backwards is tired of the green and white briefcase. Well, your day may come. Eric says Bron Breakker wins the WWE Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship against Sami Zayn at Money in the Bank. And that is a loaded with SEO title right there. Noob says Bron Breakker destroying Sami Zayn in a heartbeat. We are going narrower and narrower with these times. Hector says I want Bron to make Sami bleed in front of his family since it's in Canada. I want Bron to just demolish Sami, but methodically and not in a squash. King Azza says Bron gets angry because he can't put Sami away, snaps and starts attacking him with a chair. Gotcha, right, DQ win, that makes sense. I like what you're going for. They've not really established Bron Breakker as face or heel yet, so that would certainly lean in one direction. Spider-Boss says Chelsea Green has missed Money in the Bank. Tiffany still green for win the brief. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Spider-Boss. TJ says, hey Tom, nice to see you, brother. Do we finally get Uncle Howdy targeting his first victim? He already targeted his first victim. It's Chad Gable. Backwards says, so did you have any idea who was originally going to dethrone Gunter for the IC belt? Not at this point, no. Jim says Bron has to win this one. Sami doesn't need the belt and he can withstand a loss and stay over. Yeah, he definitely can. Aaron says Bron won't even touch Sami and still will win. Zayn says, will there be any returns or debuts at Money in the Bank? Triple H not one to drop a lot of debuts and returns in, as we know. More on that later, because I know there are certain people, a lot of people are asking about. Hector says, wait, Tom, isn't Bron a heel, especially after what he did to Ricochet? Not necessarily. Damage was done, but sometimes y'all are cool. Cal says, to be fair, Chad Gable is a special guy. He's already cheated death. As have, like, Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black. You remember AJ Styles when he got buried alive? You remember? Ishii says, will anything big happen tonight on SmackDown? I know what you're asking, and yes, Braun Strowman is there. TJ, we will be discussing that a little bit later. There is more news for Money in the Bank. At the moment, I'm just going through predictions. Spider-Boss says, by Tiffany being green, I mean she hasn't done much on the main roster. Gotcha. Okay, I understand what you're saying now. Once again, the more spoilerified prediction, based on the betting odds, based on news backstage, is that indeed Bron Breakker will be the one to win the Intercontinental Championship, to win the match, and to defeat Sami Zayn. Backward says, do you remember Rey Mysterio lost his eye and grew it back? He got better. We can all grow eyes back, mate. Let's not make a big deal out of it. Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Cheers, DJ. We are getting there, I promise. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, here's the thing. It only really makes sense for Jey Uso to win it. A lot of people in this match have natural hyperbole and natural opponents. Drew McIntyre, for example, there's a CM Punk of it all, and also there's 6 people in the match. He's not automatically likely to win it. Plus, he's very easily distractible. Whereas if Jey Uso wins a briefcase, he can use it. He can use it to go across to SmackDown alongside a Roman Reigns, for example. He can use it to actually be on the side of people like Cody Rhodes, or he can use it to get another shot against Damian Priest. It also means potentially, as I've already established Jey Uso versus Gunther, that could be a match that happens. Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso also have their own story. Jey Uso makes the most sense to win this briefcase. My prediction is Jey Uso. But if, for example, this match was going to main event, then I would 100% be saying Chad Gable to win it. And let me explain why. Chad Gable winning Money in the Bank lines him up for a rematch against Gunther. A man who he tried to beat for the Intercontinental Championship, now elevated to challenging for and potentially winning a World Heavyweight Championship. I think a win for Chad Gable and then declaring he's better than he's ever been, he wants Gunther, I think that would be great to see. I also think, should he win it, the Wyatt Six would immediately appear, put him through ladders and tables and chairs, oh my, and we would have ourselves a lovely bit of carnage at the end of Money in the Bank. If this main events, I think Chad Gable will pick up the win. However, my prediction is Jey Uso. Who do you think is winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match? Let me know in the chat, and I will be reading it out. Ishii says, will the Wyatt Six finally be physical in the ring at Money in the Bank? I'll have more on that later, don't you worry. Spider-Boss says, I think Damian Priest retains the World Heavyweight title with some help of the Judgment Day, which is not the match we are talking about. Dane says, are you going to watch AEW All in London? Not this time, no. Eric said, don't forget, watch out for the pigs. Watch the pig. King Arthur says, Yeet in the Bank is winning. Brad has Drew winning. Danny says, Trish is hosting Money in the Bank. Will she interfere in the women's ladder match? Why? Michael says, I don't think I've ever heard someone describe a wrestler as easily distractible. I mean, Chad Gable's very much there now. Drew McIntyre is probably one of the most easily distractible people in the world, as we know, because it keeps happening. Leon says, Drew McIntyre and Punk cost him the cash-in in the main event, where Drew cashes in during the Seth Priest match and fails due to CM Punk. I mean, that'd be a way to get rid of the briefcase as quickly as possible. Robin Dave has Jay winning. Spider-Boss says Jey Uso is the most over guy in WWE right now. Bo. Jay as Mr. Money in the Bank makes sense. TJ says Braun truly deserves it. I was an athlete my entire life, almost, and his athleticism is insane. He's amazing in the ring. Speaking of underrated, Bo is a phenomenal worker in the ring as well. NXT days. Jason says Jey Uso wins. Solo and crew cost him the cash-in. He aligns with his brother and Roman for the Bloodline Civil War. Who then is he cashing in on? Is he cashing in on Damian Priest and Seth Rollins as well? Is that what's happening? Backward says, I think it will be Jey Uso, but the new Bloodline will cost him his match, so he ends up failing. Very similar to Jason there. Jack says Drew will win, and he's going to try and cash in the same night, and Punk will cost him the title. Sounds like we're going to have a lot of people trying to cash in on this main event. Eric has 2 options, but I need 1 from you there, Eric. Bailey says, will there be a special guest to help CM Punk screw Drew? You're trying to suggest AJ Lee, aren't you? Chris has said, I say Sami Zayn to win, as regards the Sami Zayn-Braun Breaker match. Eric has Drew McIntyre winning Money in the Bank. Noob also has Drew McIntyre winning for storyline purposes. Carl says Drew wins and Punk costs him his cash-in. Big Nick says, unfortunately I joined late, so I'm behind, but will still add my predictions to support the chat rate. Appreciate you, Big Nick. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Spider-Boss says, Clash of the Castle 2022 and WrestleMania 14 Clash of the Castle 2024. Drew got distracted easily. TJ says I think Gable will be about to win, then the lights go out reminiscent of how Bray took out Roman, so I think it might be Jay. Ricky says, hey Tom buddy, happy Friday, hope you're doing well and good to see you. Nice to see you as well, Ricky. Eric has chosen Jay. Hector says I could see Trish costing Zoe Stark, possibly pushing the ladder over or something. Wouldn't be the end of the world for Zoe, and it would get a huge pop, potentially setting up Zoe Stark versus Trish Stratus at SummerSlam, which would be great for Zoe. Ricky says I see Jay winning. Neither Mike says Jay is screwed by the Bloodline, causing Drew to win. Drew, however, could well be screwed by CM Punk. Basically, this is going to be an orgy to the highest degree, because all these guys are getting screwed left, right and centre. Sometimes by many men at once, like a whole bloodline, a whole family you might... Oh. Too far. The spoilerific prediction actually is a little bit twofold. There is one overwhelming favourite to win the men's Money in the Bank. However, the second place was an overwhelming favourite for a long time, suggesting that there's definitely smoke. Suggesting that where there's smoke, there's fire. The person in second place is Drew McIntyre, suggesting that Drew McIntyre is definitely in contention, and I can confirm for a while the creative team were eager to have Drew McIntyre do exactly what has been mentioned in this chat. Win the briefcase, cash in on the night, and ultimately have that as Damian Priest get out of jail free card. It would also mean that Drew McIntyre forces Seth Rollins to never challenge for the championship again, as long as Damian Priest holds it. Awkward for everyone involved. However, Drew McIntyre is no longer the favourite. The overwhelming favourite to win the men's Money in the Bank ladder match is indeed Jey Uso. The other Mike wants the Wyatts to be kept out of major storylines and matches. I would suggest that they are themselves a major storyline, and at the moment they're competing with the right people. Chris says, I say Sammy as Wyatt 6, take out Gable before the match and Sammy gets inserted. That's definitely not going to happen, Chris. There is no world in which that happens. Clyde says, afternoon here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Tom, already finished a workout, now cleaning up the house as I consume. Spoiler warning, like button has been smashed. I was number 63, ready for SmackDown and watch the pig. We have 93 people here, 66 likes. The number keeps going up. 4 more gets us to 70. Thank you to everyone who's already hit that thumbs up button. Big Nick says, Faces versus Bloodline. Bloodline to win with one of the Timu twins sitting out. I like what you did there. Red says, Jey Uso, but Howdy and the gang comes down because half of them have got targets on their heads. Zane says, will Roman return to get revenge on the Bloodline for attacking Paul Heyman? Yes. When? I'll talk about later. Big Nick says, Women's Money in the Bank, Chelsea to win, but will botch the cash in. I agree wholeheartedly. TJ says, the Wyatts are the main thing going on right now. Bray never got that opportunity because of creative control to last as long. So the Wyatts deserve everything now under the leadership of Bo. The latest incarnation of Bray Wyatt, the most recent one, who returned with the Wyatt 6 at Extreme Rules, did have an element of creative control. I was first and only place and person to report that Bray Wyatt had signed a new deal and how he would be returning, plus they would have creative control. It was a good day. Because we're a relatively small channel, I gained 50 subscribers in that one day, up until recently, a record for subscriber growth on the channel. If I was a bigger channel, I would undoubtedly have gotten thousands for that, but a lot of people still don't know that a month before the return of Bray Wyatt, I reported that he had signed and would be making an appearance shortly. Good times. He did have creative control, or at least an element of it, and you did get to see some of that play out. Spider-Boss says, follow the pig, which is like follow the buzzards, but more oinky. You know, it used to be he's not feeling so oozy. Nowadays, not feeling so oinky. In the main event, my prediction is that Damian Priest defeats Seth Rollins. Because of interference, not just from Finn Balor, but from Liv Morgan. You see, that's a thing that very much interests me. Liv Morgan at the moment is working with Finn Balor, clearly behind the scenes, to disrupt Dominic Mysterio. Now, it's become very obvious that Liv Morgan is working with Finn Balor because Finn Balor just became a tag team champion. So if you want to muddy the water, Liv Morgan helping Damian Priest would certainly be a big help. I don't know how that plays out, but certainly Seth Rollins is someone who could be distracted and could be still showing signs of injury. Damian Priest, for me, retains, gets destroyed by Gunther. But when you think of the people that Damian Priest has claimed scalps over, we've got Seth Rollins incoming, we've had Jey Uso, this man picks up wins. Because the championship won't be with him for much longer. Personally, I think come SummerSlam, Damian Priest will no longer be the World Heavyweight Champion. That said, Rollins is a scalp and someone he should absolutely be scalping at his next available opportunity. Who do you have winning between Damian Priest and Seth freaking Rollins? Who have you got? Bailey says, can someone who is not in the match get the briefcase? Has that ever happened? Brock Lesnar. Austin Theory, I believe, as well. Backwards says, the Bray Wyatt news is when I became a subscriber. Nice to know, Backwards. Appreciate that. Genuine question I have for everyone, and I really enjoy doing this every now and then. What convinced you to press the subscribe button? This is interesting and very helpful for me to try and work out the next steps of this channel. And it really does help me with the growth of the channel. So, what convinced you as a viewer to hit subscribe and stick around in this channel? What news story was it? What was I doing? Is it something in particular this channel offers that other channels don't? What made you want to stay? King Arthur has Seth winning. Big Nick just says, truth to climb a ladder on SmackDown. I mean, they've got to establish the rules somehow. Leon says, Seth wins by Finn accidentally costing Damian the title. The breakdown is indeed incoming. Hector says, Finn and Liv versus Becky and Seth is something I need to see in the future. Thanks for the suggestion, Tom. Jack has Damian Priest. Sean says, would it be a bigger win for Gunther by beating Seth or by beating Damian? It'd be bigger for Gunther beating Seth, but that would mean Damian Priest being cut out at the knees a little bit. Big Nick says, for Sammy versus Braun Breaker, Breaker to win convincingly. I like what you're doing here, Big Nick, and I appreciate you for it. Jason says, Priest wins, survives the cash-in attempt, loses to Gunther at SummerSlam. Eric also has Damian Priest. Spider-Boss says Damian Priest wins with some help of the Judgment Day. Ricky says Priest wins. I kind of suspect it'll be the moment where Damian Priest continues to say, I don't want any help, walks away from Finn Balor. We have tense moments, but they eventually get back together. And then comes SummerSlam, while Gunther's destroying him, Damian Priest gets no help from Judgment Day. He's left alone and gets his wish. I would just find that very, very fun. Ricky says Priest wins. Backwards also has Damian Priest. Sam says Seth 100%. Interesting to see how that plays out. Sid says Rollins will win. Robin Dave says Damian wins. Leon says Seth wins by Finn accidentally costing Damian the title. Cal says I very much believe Liv will cost Seth. Eric says, how did Brock win if he wasn't in the match? Mustafa Ali literally had hold of the briefcase, then Brock just walked down and took it. That's literally exactly what happened. Eric has Damian Priest retaining. Leon says Seth wins by Finn accidentally costing Damian the title. Quite a few of those. Eric arrived at the show saying, your SummerSlam 2022 watch along. Good to know, I believe. That was the day after I reported that Becky Lynch was back and with new gear. Spider-Boss says, I found out about spoiler warning in 2021 after Mercedes Money, Sasha Banks, didn't appear at SummerSlam 2021. That was 2021. Gotcha. And Nobody says Wrestling Days, always a tip of the hat. He's very much worth respecting, and thank you for that. Jason also says Wrestling Days, watched an episode and liked it, subscribed to that episode, and it was a Wired 6 news for me. A fairly recent appearance, Jason, and we're glad to have you. Abigail also says it's been the Wired 6 reports. Good. We've definitely got a lot of interest and a lot of new people joining the live shows as well, which is always helpful. Carl says you went on Martin's stream. I thought I'd give you a watch. You've been stuck with me ever since. Can't complain about that now, can I? Red says Seth Rollins wins. Liv Morgan screws Damian Priest. I still want him out of the Judgment Day. Well, he will be if he loses. Doug says simple. You're not a pompous a-hole like all the others. There are definitely some people in my field who are not problematic. There's also plenty who are. Leon says the NXT UK news, when you said it was closing down, at first I laughed and thought you were lying, but no, you were right, and I've been a subscriber ever since. Appreciate that, Leon. It was a difficult moment for me when a whole lot of people in my field decided, hey, you said NXT UK is closing. We need to get rid of you now. And they did everything they could to make that happen. Then it was proven right. And you'll note 0 apologies have ever happened. Robin Dave says, just randomly watched your channel a couple of years ago talking about Cody's return. Yes, the first report of Cody versus Seth at WrestleMania did come from this channel as well. Hector says, when I was laid off, you were covering the WWE releases. Your working streams gave me an outlet to keep my mind right after being laid off. I'm happy to hear that, Hector, that we were able to help keep your mind straight. I appreciate you saying that. Marcel has Priest winning. Sid says, I subscribe because I'm a fan of wrestling and I like watching the streams. Cool. Nice and simple, easy way to do things. The live stream working perfect. Thank you for letting me know, Sid. Raymond says, the interactivity and integrity of your reporting convinced me to hit the subscribe button. So glad I did. Good to know, Raymond. Thank you very much for letting me know. Backward says, I feel the Judgment Day will be no more after SummerSlam. The day is coming. The other Mike says, I subscribe because I just like talking about wrestling without the toxicity of X. Yeah, I am very happy with the community that we have here. And the fact that we really don't see many problems. We occasionally have a bad egg or a troll that we do need to sort of move on. We've occasionally had people who don't quite fit the mold of what we go for here, who maybe doesn't source things regularly, and we have to move them on. But ultimately, I'm extremely proud of the work that we do and the positive atmosphere that we have here. So thank you for pointing that out. Ricky says, the brain news when he came back to WWE, that you're an awesome and a cool person. I know it's real and not. When I turn on your channel, I'm glad I found this channel. Thank you, Ricky. It's a very nice thing to say. Leisha says, when Sasha and Naomi walked out, you were the only one that I know of at the time who did not bash them or talk negative about them. You provided facts and I only trust your reporting. Well, thank you for that. I have incredibly good record when it comes to Mercedes Money and a good record as Naomi as well. So I know a little bit about them, knew a little bit more about that situation, and wasn't about to be bashing anyone for it. Backwards says, the Brock Lesnar Money in the Bank win was such a Vince McMahon thing to do. It made absolutely no sense. Spider-Boss says, do you think we could see a mixed tag team match between Rey and Zelina versus Liv and Dom? One day I'm sure we could, though there is a bit of a back and forth at the moment that doesn't quite fit that mold. Dax says, hey everyone, what have I missed? Just a little bit about Money in the Bank. We're on the main event right now. Cal says, poor Mustafa Ali, indeed. TJ says, yes, Tom, definitely under Triple H. Did I mean under Vince? I do remember you reporting it a month before, my friend. Thank you, TJ. Appreciate you. Sean says, I was introduced to your channel by Michael. I've enjoyed it, and I like how accurate reporting is, especially on Alexa Bliss. We all have fandoms of certain wrestlers, and that does really help when it comes to what I'm able to report. I don't like to sensationalize, which has made me unpopular in circles, but I'd rather be unpopular in those circles than popular, to be honest. Charles says, I believe that Liv will accidentally cost Damien the title by interfering. Heard a rumour of Roman returns and Money in the Bank. Where's that rumour come from, Charles? Let me know your source. Cal says, you also broke The Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth, didn't you? Yeah. And also reported that The Rock would be pinning Cody Rhodes. Sometimes I just do well. And there are times I hit a very rich vein of form, and there are times where I don't have that much news. And every now and then I have to skip a show because I don't have any news. So I'm not the most well-connected man. I appreciate all of you for joining me. We've recently hit 6,500 subscribers, which is a huge number. Absolutely massive. 6,500. It means over the course of the year so far, we've gained about 1,500 subscribers. In the last month, we gained 400. Clearly something is going right, and I'm very proud to be able to give you what I'm able to give you. Spider-Boss says, after hearing Mercedes Money explain briefly why she left WWE, I remember you were the one who said Laurinaitis yelled at Mercedes and Naomi on Raw. Yes. The only one to my knowledge to report anything like that about John Laurinaitis. And, as you know, I've broken down a lot more information about John Laurinaitis since. Big Nick suggests that the men's Money in the Bank Chad Gable wins. I reckon that's part of why he signed his new contract. I certainly have a soft spot for that option. Cal says, imagine if we had a guy from Blackpool who supports Liverpool and is a wrestling journalist to tell us about what's going to happen. we are in the world we are. Charles says, I think it was Wrestling Days, if I remember correctly. He does continue to be a big supporter of this channel, and I cannot thank him. I don't think I'll ever stop thanking him, to be fair. Thank you, nobody. I appreciate you. One says, your accuracy on Mercedes money to AEW made me a subscriber, along with the other accurate reports coming from you. Finley just gives a W. TJ says, Tom, I know I asked you before as well. Do you know if we will get Uncle Howdy with his old theme when he comes out to wrestle? At this point in time, they are continuing to work out whose individual themes will be what. They do still have the rights to the individual theme that Bray Wyatt was using. I believe that will be what they use. Roger says, are you a fan of Tony Storm saying chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe? Yes. It's a good gimmick, and I like it. Dax says, Tom, this is the first time I've ever listened to a live stream instead of music at the gym. I'm always excited for your streams. Appreciate you, Dax. We do have quite a few people who listen to this as a podcast if, for example, they're driving, and that is an option available to us. Because it's not really a physically interactive stream, it does mean you can have me on in the background. You can have me on in your ear. You can watch me at a later date. It works for me. I'm pretty happy with it. And thank you, Finley, for dropping W's in the chat. That does indeed help the chat rate. Sam says, if Seth loses, what does he do at SummerSlam? Probably just wrestle someone else. There are other options available. After all, I certainly wouldn't complain at Seth Rollins' Finn Balor, for example. I know we've seen it a lot, but I don't care. It's always good. Spider-Boss says, do you think we could see Rhea Ripley back shortly after Money in the Bank? Yeah. Charles says, glad to help. You're doing a phenomenal job. Appreciate you. Nobody says, Shattered by Code Orange. Such a banger. Indeed. Cal says, what time will the watch along be tomorrow? It will start at midnight UK time. So it will start an hour before the main show when the pre-show starts. Ishii says, why does the piano keep playing and not the full theme song when the Wyatt Six appear? Because they want it to be eerie and a little bit scary. Red says, I joined this group 3 years ago when I found out what Bray Wyatt was going to give Alexa Bliss a new costume, which you will see soon. That wasn't 3 years ago, mate. That was 3 months ago, but I appreciate what you're saying. Nick says, Wrestling Days told me about you and the Wyatt Six storyline, about their independent stories in the future. Very recent person to join us then, Nick Brennan. Welcome to the show. Sean says, I also like how you're the only one that doesn't hide your news behind a paywall. There are, once again, others who don't put news behind paywalls. I just believe in free press. I did have a conversation with Wrestling Days where he wanted to stress that he didn't want me believing I was stealing his news. Now, he always sources. So at no point did I believe that. I believe in free press and getting all the information out there. If I'm reporting something, I want it shared. And if he can get views from what I'm doing, more power to him. Absolutely. I want the entire industry to thrive. And anything I can do to help, I want to do. More on that later, Ricky. Spider-Boss says it was nice that Damian Priest mentioned Rhea on Raw when Priest mentioned Rhea is pissed off about Dom helping Liv. Hector says, who do you see as being the first challenger for the Raw men's tag titles? At the moment, I don't. I think they're still working it out. Eric says, when do you think we'll get to Priest versus Finn and will the title be involved? Not sure yet. Ishii says, Uncle Howdy should use Bray's old theme song by Shatter, which is indeed what's happening. Nobody says, I think we only hear the piano at the moment. Is to make the actual ring debut entrance to be special. It's a combination of things. The spoilerific prediction, Damian Priest to retain over Seth Rollins. There's lots of different rumours. They're trying to hide this one creatively. That's mostly from the betting averages, where, you know, they'd be making money for it. Dax says, do we know who will be the first of the Wyatt Six to wrestle? We don't. I think it'll be Rambling Rabbit. There's a few more pieces of news I want to dive in on. Firstly, there were 3 matches in contention to make the card as the 5th match on the show. 4 of the matches, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline, was a lock. The World Heavyweight Championship match was a lock, and both the Money in the Bank matches were a lock. There were 3 other matches competing for that 5th spot. The one that made it is Bron Breakker versus Sami Zayn. The ones that didn't are Austin Theory and Grayson Waller versus DIY and Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega. The intention was to continue the rotation of one Women's Championship match one show, the other Women's Championship match the other show, but the match simply did not make the card in the end. It was a choice by Liv Morgan to wrestle Zelina Vega. It was thrown away onto Raw to basically do a build to the pay-per-view. Trish Stratus is hosting because Canada. She'll get a big pop. She will not be there as a heel. Also, fun fact, she's said to be an admirer of the work that Liv Morgan is doing at the moment, likening it to her feud way back when with Mickie James. I certainly wouldn't hate the idea of a SummerSlam match between Liv Morgan and Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus is not said to be bringing her wrestling gear, but she is said to be interested in more wrestling matches and enjoyed her time working with the WWE previously. WWE and Triple H are said to be interested in having her work with them again in the near future. And at the moment, as regards rumours of Roman Reigns, I have not heard anything about Roman Reigns returning at Money in the Bank. Instead, what I'm hearing is that we're more likely to see Roman Reigns returning around SummerSlam time, particularly, and I'm interested in this happening, during the Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa main event of SummerSlam. At this point in time, I have not heard anything about Roman Reigns returning at Money in the Bank. More news still to come. Sean says, do you think it's possible Bayley beats Nia, then loses the belt to a cash-in? Everything is possible and everything is on the table. Been a while since we've done that one. Spiderbell says, after watching how wrestling media and fans complain about Mercedes money, I remember your video about the hatred that Mercedes got from the fans and wrestling media. Yep, I wanted to, and for those interested in Mercedes money who haven't yet, check out the WTF Wrestling playlist. You'll see videos basically going into detail about the situation with Mercedes money, including what she'd be doing in AEW when she debuted, and also a very stringent analysis of the media. Thank you, Sai, I appreciate you. I did not know that. That is a long pre-show. We'll be starting at 11 p.m. then. Thank you for letting me know. I did a breakdown of the media the media reception to Mercedes money, pointing out how a whole lot of it is clearly seriously questionable. With detail. And Sean says, will Trish be a heel? Not in Canada, she won't. Ricky says, I don't know if you know this person, but CW Wrestling said Alexa could come back as a female fiend. Do you actually see that? Not a female fiend, no. Though I do see Alexa Bliss coming back as a similar character to what she was when she worked with Bray Wyatt previously. She wants to do that. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed. Charles says, I definitely would love to hear Got the Whole World in My Hands theme song for the Wyatt 6, but a man can dream. Roger says, I went crazy when Britt Baker returned to AEW Forbidden Door. I didn't know she was going to return. They did keep that nice and quiet. As Sai says, which I've responded to a moment ago, the countdown to Money in the Bank starts at 10 p.m. UK tomorrow, the main show at midnight UK, just to warn you. As I say, we'll then be starting at 11 p.m. Appreciate you for that. Dylan says, watch the pig. And so we do. Big Nick says, Priest versus Rollins. Priest to win so he can lose to Gunter. Would be a shame to give Seth a short reign unless he's chasing a world title count, which at the moment he's not. Dax says, will the Rabbit, Huskus and Mercy wrestle maskless, or will they have new masks that will fit snug when they wrestle? A number of different masks have been made. If they struggle to wrestle with the masks on, they will take them off. The WWE are not planning to hide their identities in the same way, so it could be very easy for them to take the masks off. However, the masks are optional, and there are masks that are made which are slightly different, which allow them to wrestle and breathe a little easier. TJ says, Tom, do you see Howdy's debut match at SummerSlam? Personally, yes, I do, because that does mirror Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor as the Fiend's introduction many moons ago. Michael says, do you know what the reaction to the Brit Mercedes segment was? Fairly positive overall. AEW are happy with what they've been able to build. Mercedes Money is excited to work with Britt Baker. This is, however, the first match that Mercedes Money has not requested. We always knew that the NJPW Strong Championship was going to go to Mercedes Money as soon as she was fit and able, but Mercedes did request to work for the TBS Championship instead of the AEW Women's Championship, which is, I feel, a good call and has helped elevate the division overall. Spider-Boss says Trish versus Liv at SummerSlam could be fun, could work for Rhea's return after the match. Indeed. Roger says, will we see Goldberg show up at All In? No. Marcel says, I was watching a live stream from WrestleTalk. After your video came on, I watched more videos and found out how good your news was and subscribed. Appreciate that, Marcel. We have been working towards trying to make sure my videos start popping up after the videos from other channels as well. And it's working out well so far. We definitely pop up after See Wrestling, after Wrestling Days a lot. We pop up after Fightful quite a lot. SEO, man. SEO. There was a brief point where we unfortunately popped up after a lot of JD from NY videos, and at that point we got a lot of trolls. You'll notice, not anymore. Ishii says they're trying to make Uncle Howdy the new Fiend or something similar. Nope, he will be playing the Uncle Howdy as Uncle Howdy was intended. TJ says, will Howdy wrestle with his mask? Again, same situation. He can wrestle maskless if he prefers, but there's a number of different masks which he will be able to wrestle in. Big Nick says, I pressed subscribe as I watched the stream and you kept saying you'd already given your intel on certain topics previously, which made me go back and watch. I don't want to miss anything else. Appreciate that. Jason says, I like Britt Baker, but she needs something else besides I was the first one here. Give it time to work. Tausif says, Jimmy might show up at Money in the Bank and Roman will show up at SummerSlam. Don't think it's impossible. But as I say, Roman Reigns unlikely to show up at Money in the Bank. Spider-Boss says, Britt saying one of Mercedes' lines on Dynamite was fun. Mercedes saying, I see you're a fan, was funny. Toby says, will you be streaming Money in the Bank? I'll be streaming a watch party of Money in the Bank tomorrow. Little more news to go through. Randy Orton is not expected to turn heel. A lot of people going for that rumour at the moment. Randy Orton is not expected to turn heel during the 6-man tag match. Orton versus Cody Rhodes is not planned anytime before the battle with Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam, and indeed the Bloodline Civil War that is expected to follow it. The Wyatt Six are likely to feature in some way at Money in the Bank, but Triple H does not want them potentially overshadowing the event, meaning that while there may be an appearance, it is also possible that we just get a backstage vignette or some sort of commercial for what they're going for. The WWE are thrilled with the overall response to the Wyatt Six so far and are eager to capitalise on that, but don't want to sort of overdo it and get people to get a bit sick of them fast. We could see Chad Gable being pulled from the Money in the Bank ladder match late due to an attack or a kidnap if they want to go all the way. But as I say, their intention with it is just to ensure that the Wyatt Six do not overshadow everything else going on at the event. Pardon me. It is, I think, a good use of the Wyatt Six, because if they dominate the show, we will get Wyatt sick of them fairly soon. I just think it's clever for those fans who aren't personally fans already. Spider-Boss says, fans on social media has taken seriously the Liv and Dom storyline. Fans are mentioning Liv on an IG post from Dominic where Dom was mentioning his wife. Yeah. Some people genuinely believe it's 100% authentic, and it's very questionable. We have 111 people watching. We have finally broken that 100 level. 3 more likes gets us to 90. So if you can, please do consider hitting that like button. Sean says, if anyone turns heel, I see it being Kevin Owens. Toby, Money in the Bank starts at midnight UK time tomorrow. Spider-Boss says, I think WWE should pull the trigger on DIY winning the tag team titles. And Hank says, breaking news, Uncle Howdy cited a Rob Zombie concert. There's definitely some influence there. Also, anyone mentioning Silent Hill is in for me. DJ says, Tom, there are reports going around Bo might bring back The Fiend. What's your source on that one, TJ? We like to source our information here, and depending on what source you say is depending on if I find it credible or not. Dax says, Tom, in your opinion, what is the most exciting thing going on in WWE? Wyatt Six right now is always a Wyatt guy. Always. Healthy 901 says, Wyatt Six news and wrestling. Wrestling Days recommendation got me to subscribe. Love the show. Keep it up. Appreciate you. Thank you kindly for mentioning that. Ricochet is not at this point in time signed to AEW. Ricochet is currently a free agent, though I can confirm that All Elite Wrestling have made a bid and a contract offer to Ricochet, which he is considering. At this point in time, Ricochet is currently a free agent, able to negotiate with a number of interested parties. Bayley versus Nia Jax is ready to kick in properly after Money in the Bank. That is the match that they're planning for SummerSlam, so there hasn't been too much focus on it because they don't want to, much of what I said with the Y6, get people too sick of it at this point. It is something that they are considering a key match for SummerSlam because Triple H is said to want to build Bayley up towards Becky Lynch level. At the moment, there are not many women who are able to break up to that, competing with the top men level. Becky Lynch has been able to achieve it. Charlotte Flair has been there at moments. Triple H is aiming over the course of her championship run to get Bayley to that level, and it really is starting, or at least kicking into gear, with Nia Jax. It was a big match and a big moment at WrestleMania, but she was not really heavily featured in the build-up. There was some disappointment amongst the fandom. Triple H wants to show that he's heard you and make this Nia Jax match a big key component for SummerSlam. TJ, I cannot comment on incredibly personal information like that. I do not know the relationship status of Liv Morgan and Bo Dallas. Liv Morgan has stated that she is single. That is all I know. Dax said that that means much, but did you see when the wives were stalking Chad, the pig was first? Dax, I did say, watch the pig. Whatever you do, always keep an eye on that pig. TJ, Vince Russo is not reporting anything. It is purely speculation from his part. So I can state there are no reports going around to my knowledge. It is speculation from someone who does not report news. Bayley says, could you see Bayley body slamming Nia Jax at SummerSlam? I think it's certainly possible. Bayley is physically capable of that. Spider-Boss says, actually, Bayley should get more TV time. It'd be more about Bayley's opponents. Very true. And Ricky says, watch the pig. Charlotte Flair's recovery is said to be going very well. She's very close to being cleared to return to the WWE. So a bit of good news for those looking for Charlotte Flair news. No worries, TJ. That's why we source here, so I can essentially break down who reports news and who doesn't. For example, I worked briefly for Sportskeeda. Since I left, they do not report news. So if someone comes in and says, for example, Sportskeeda are reporting this, they're definitely not. Last piece of news covers Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair recently lost the Women's Tag Team Championships, and the Tag Team Championships have been a little bit absent ever since. One of the main reasons was that the WWE still weren't particularly happy with the development and confidence of Jade Cargill. Bianca Belair is said to have been needing to work a little bit more with her to bring her up to speed. Jade Cargill is apparently currently spending more time at the Performance Center, and despite the contract situation, Natalya is said to also be working directly with Jade Cargill once again. Natalya did work with Jade Cargill before Jade Cargill's debut at the Royal Rumble in the Hart family dungeon in order to get her up to speed. Since then, unfortunately, there have been a few errors and a few botches and a bit of bad luck, which has cost a little confidence. So she's spending more time at the Performance Center, and she's also working more directly with Natalya. Thomas says, is Wyatt, the Wyatt's going to be at Money in the Bank? I've already covered that. Zip back about, I want to say 10 minutes. Just rewind the video and you'll find all the information there. Charles says, do you think Naomi will join Roman's bloodline? Nope. Dylan says, Damian Priest himself said that his match is main eventing tomorrow night. Good to have that confirmation. TJ says, Tom, have you noticed Bo is in phenomenal shape? He's put on size as in muscle mass to make Howdy more menacing. Do you know if Bo has been doing in-ring work at the Performance Center? Yes, I can confirm that he has. Dylan says, Jay winning makes sense. Not only does he need a big win, but he's the only one currently who's not in a storyline. I mean, I won't be mad if Drew won, but it makes no sense for Drew to win it. I agree wholeheartedly with what you've said there. We've been live for an hour and 10 minutes. We've covered in depth the Money in the Bank predictions and plenty of spoilers in that. And we've really seen a skyrocket of our viewership in the last 20 minutes or so. So essentially, since we stopped with the potential spoilers. No surprise there. T Super says, I feel like Jade should have stayed in AEW to develop, but at the same time, WWE could help her even more. Spider-Boss says it would be fun to hear the Who's Your Mommy chant when Rhea returns to beating up Dominic. Dax says, do we know if Uncle Howdy's entrance will feature the lantern? We do not at this time. And Ricky says, take care, buddy. Thank you for all that you do. Appreciate you. I'm wrapping up. I'll see you live tomorrow for our full Money in the Bank watch party starting an hour before the show begins. Hopefully see you all there. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.